Dear Global Pioneer family, and all friends who care about the shared destiny of humanity. Hello everyone, I am Chung Diao Fan. Today, I do not want to talk to you about the underlying code of blockchain, nor do I want to discuss the execution efficiency of smart contracts. I want to ask everyone to turn your gaze to this turbulent, fragile, yet closely interconnected physical world we live in. Recently, I watched an analytical video about the global energy crisis. This video talked about the blockade crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, the astonishing phenomenon of crude oil futures skyrocketing by 35% in 1 week, and how the global economy fell into panic because of a narrow strait. After watching this analysis, my heart could not calm down for a long time. What I saw was not just the rise and fall of oil prices. What I saw was the extreme fragility of human traditional centralized systems, and this fragility exactly confirms the deepest worries and grandest visions Nicholas and I had when we founded Pi Network 7 years ago. Today, I want to borrow this story about oil to chat with everyone about trust, centralization, and the ultimate defense line that we at Pi Network are building. Let us first return to the story of this oil crisis. 20% of the world's oil must squeeze through this gap in the Strait of Hormuz, which is only 21 miles wide, every day. This is like the main artery of the global economy being pinched at an extremely narrow throat. What happens when this throat is threatened? Just the anticipation of a blockade makes oil tankers afraid to go to sea, causing insurance companies to raise premiums by 12 times, or even directly refuse to underwrite. Without insurance, oil tankers worth hundreds of millions of dollars can only stay in ports, and the global oil supply chain instantly faces the risk of rupture. This phenomenon, where the failure of a single node paralyzes the entire system, is called a single point of failure in computer science. In the real economic world, this single point of failure is everywhere. Not only does oil transportation rely on a certain strait, our global financial settlement highly relies on the SWIFT system. Our internet services highly rely on the data centers of a few centralized cloud service providers, like Amazon and Google. Even the wealth of us, ordinary people, highly relies on the monetary policies of a few central banks. When these centralized throats are artificially choked, whether due to war, sanctions, or greed, ordinary people and ordinary countries can only silently bear the cost of inflation, wealth shrinkage, and soaring living costs. Just like the video said, during the oil crisis in 1973, long lines formed at gas stations in the United States. The economy fell into a deep recession, and ordinary people's lives were disrupted. This is the most fatal weakness of a centralized system, handing over your destiny to others. Humans are smart. After every crisis, humans try to build defense lines. Facing the oil chokehold, humans built 3 lines of defense. The first line of defense is the bypass pipeline. For example, Saudi Arabia built the East-West pipeline across the desert, trying to bypass the strait. But this is like a backup server for the internet. Its capacity is limited, and it remains a centralized physical facility. The second line of defense is the strategic reserve. For example, the United States established the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But this is just a delaying tactic to buy time. The stored grain will eventually run out, and it does not solve the fundamental supply problem. The third line of defense is the market's self-correction. When oil prices rise to a certain level, deep sea oil and shale oil, which were originally losing money, become profitable. Capital pours in, and new production capacity starts. But this process takes time. From decision-making to oil extraction, shale oil takes at least 4 to 6 months. During this time gap, the world still has to endure severe pain. Although these defense lines are useful, they are still just patches within the old centralized framework. They remain fragile, they remain expensive, and they remain in the hands of a few powerful entities and capital. As a social computing scientist, this makes me reflect. Can we build a global economic system that is more resilient, fairer, and fundamentally eliminates single points of failure? This is exactly the original intention behind the birth of Pi Network. We are not making another hype token. We are building the 4th line of defense for human finance and trust, an ultimate, decentralized line of defense. If we compare Pi Network to the global energy system, then our oil is the trust and value exchange between people. In the traditional financial system, this oil must pass through Straits of Hormuz like banks and clearinghouses. Once a bank collapses or your account is unreasonably frozen, your value circulation is cut off. But in Pi Network, how do we do it? We did not hand over the bookkeeping rights to any centralized server, not even the servers at Stanford. We handed it over to the 350,000, or even more, globally distributed personal computer nodes. This is like distributing the rights to extract and transport oil to millions of households around the world. No single person, no single organization can choke the throat of Pi Network. Even if nodes in a certain country go offline due to force majeure, other nodes around the globe can seamlessly take over. The network remains secure, and your assets remain sacred and inviolable. We did not hand over the right to issue currency to greedy institutions. We handed it to every real person. Through extremely strict KYC, we ensure that the 19 million identities in this network are flesh and blood real people. We use the fair mechanism of mobile mining so that wealth is no longer concentrated underground for a few rich people, like Saudi oil, but is distributed like sunlight to every ordinary person willing to contribute their attention. In that video about the oil crisis, a very profound law was mentioned. After every crisis, the world's reliance on the old system decreases, and humanity seeks new alternatives, thereby driving technological leaps. The crisis of 1973 promoted the construction of pipelines and reserves. The crisis of 1979 promoted the development of nuclear power. The crisis of 2008 accelerated the rise of new energy vehicles. Every time we are choked, it forces humanity towards a more dispersed, more environmentally friendly new energy era. So, what about the global financial system? The financial crisis of 2008 gave birth to Bitcoin. This was humanity's first attempt to use technology to resist financial hegemony. And today, in this era where geopolitics are turbulent, inflation is rampant, and AI is reshaping productivity, the traditional fiat currency system and centralized financial institutions are encountering an unprecedented crisis of trust. Now, it is Pi Network's turn to take the stage. If new energy vehicles are the replacement for traditional fuel cars, then Pi Network is the comprehensive upgrade of the traditional centralized financial system. We not only possess decentralized underlying technology, that is our Stellar Consensus Protocol, which is more environmentally friendly and efficient than Bitcoin and can carry massive global micropayments, much like clean solar energy replacing polluting coal. More importantly, we possess a massive ecosystem based on real people. As everyone knows, no matter how good a new energy vehicle is, it cannot run without charging piles. Pi Network's ecosystem is our charging piles. The ecosystem applications we vigorously promoted in 2025 and 2026, such as StarMax for commercial payments, Blind Lounge for social networking, and Gargura for decentralized finance. These applications are turning Pi Network from a simple ledger into a vibrant digital economy. When farmers in Vietnam can directly use Pi to buy agricultural machinery from Europe without going through the exploitation of Western Union. When small vendors in Africa can obtain collateral-free microloans through Pi Network without having to endure the cold faces of traditional banks. When global creators can directly receive tips from fans through Pi without being taken a cut by large platforms. We will have established a highly resilient digital safe haven in this fragile world. Dear pioneers, when you look at the outside world where oil prices skyrocket because of the blockade of a strait, where the stock market crashes because of an interest rate hike by the Federal Reserve, where ordinary people's lives are difficult because of the games of great powers, please do not just feel panic. Please look down at that purple app on your phone. Please look at the Pi you have accumulated bit by bit in your hands. This is not just a number. This is the last line of defense that we ordinary people have built for ourselves in this world full of hegemony and uncertainty. This line of defense is not built of reinforced concrete, but is woven together by the consensus of our 19 million real pioneers, by the countless clicks over these 7 years, by every active node. Perhaps we are walking very slowly, like that newly laid new energy pipeline. Perhaps we still need time to perfect the ecosystem, to face regulations, to get every commercial implementation linked through. But the laws of history have already told us Decentralization is the inevitable direction of human social evolution. Those old forces attempting to monopolize resources and choke necks will eventually be replaced by dispersed, inclusive new networks jointly built by millions of ordinary people. This is not just a victory of technology. This is a victory of civilization. So please do not easily give up the chips in your hands because of temporary price fluctuations in front of your eyes. Do not sell your ticket cheaply to the capitalists of the old world on the eve of the completion of this new world. Let us work together to guard this digital city-state without a throat. Let us use our patience and belief to welcome that free, fair, and prosperous digital era that truly belongs to ordinary people. Thank you, everyone.